Good morning. I'm Veda Peters. I'm here to welcome you to the podcast version of the 11th Annual Air Quality and Health Workshop. And I'm here with Jim Standen, representing the BC Ministry of Environment from Victoria. And I have questions, and Mr. Standen will hopefully provide us with really good answers.
Let's hope so.
Okay. So what's the current status of fossil fuel extraction, processing, and transportation in British Columbia?
Well, as it stands right now, we're at a place where there remains significant coal development, has been for part of the BC economy for the last 100 years, and we see continued expansion and growth in that area. We have a number of projects proposed for the northeast part of the province, mainly in the Murray River drainage and along the coal seam there. We also have coal development in the southeast. Now, coal really isn't, from a BC perspective, an energy question, but it does represent a resource extraction issue that has some potential for air quality management needs. But again, we can expect to see continued growth in that area. Then when you look at the natural gas sector, we know for sure that we're going to see significant growth there. LNG has been a primary driver over the last couple of years and an area of keen focus for us. But then flowing from that, in order to support that, will also be increased development in the northeast with increased processing, and that in turn will also have management concerns, management issues that we're going to have to deal with, both respect to air quality and other environmental values.
So are there any other areas of the province outside the northeast that expect to be affected?
Well, again, the LNG is primarily a northwest question, and so you're looking at Kitimat, Prince Rupert, but not exclusively. There's also facilities being proposed for the Lower Mainland, for Vancouver Island. How many of those will actually come to fruition is something for the markets to figure out, but right now we do have proposals scattered along the coast, but primarily focused in the northwest. And as far as coal, same story. We have a couple of projects proposed for Vancouver Island, one for the interior, but primarily concentrated in the northeast and the southeast.
So plans for change exist, but whether or not that actually happens remains to be seen.
We certainly, from a provincial perspective, we hope it will be, and we want to make sure that as it comes online, that we're prepared to manage it, that we have the right standards in place to make sure that we're protecting environmental values while we're moving forward with these other opportunities.
So, last question. What regulations, procedures, policies are in place to manage the air quality issues associated with fossil fuel extraction, processing, and transportation? Just a small question.
It's a good, and how do I get world peace? Actually, I'll sort of split it into the two pieces. So from the coal perspective, and again, I raised coal in my talk earlier this morning just because there is a potential for air quality issues that need to be managed. But it's not really an energy question for the province because most of our coal is exported and most of it is actually metallurgical coal, so it's used in steel making. It's not thermal coal used for energy production. And in fact, and something I didn't mention in my talk, which I skipped over in my notes, was the fact that there was a ban put in place a number of years ago on new energy utilizing coal in the province. The step was taken to say that we weren't going to create coal-fired energy, and in fact moved a number of folks who were starting to move in that direction in other directions, natural gas, that sort of thing. So we've eliminated the issue of coal as an energy source here, but that doesn't change the fact that you still have transportation issues with moving coal by rail. We've got currently have active issues or active project proposals that the public has raised concerns about in relation to coal transport out of the various ports. So in that case, it's incumbent on us as a ministry to work with our partners because we don't have jurisdiction in those areas. Rail is exclusive jurisdiction of the federal government, so we can't impose regulation on how they run the train system, but they do already use polymer sprays to help dampen coal dust and have taken extra steps they've added an extra spray station. Those kinds of things are being done by the federal government, largely in response to public concern. But there's also a number of coal expansion projects that are under review that many folks are interested in, and it's our job to work with both the local governments, with the federal government, and in many cases, like for example, for the Surrey-Fraser docks, that's a Metro Vancouver jurisdiction because they have delegated responsibility under my legislation to manage air quality in that area. So we're very much a partner at the table there. We're not a direct regulator, and so we have a lot of work to build those partnerships and make sure that they stay strong so that we can have influence over those decisions as they go forward, and we've committed to doing that. When it comes to LNG, again, very complex regulatory framework. The Ministry of Environment is really policy setter in that case. We set emission standards, we set technology standards, we set ambient air quality objectives, and then we hand the ball over to the Oil and Gas Commission, who then do the specific authorizations. And our friends in the OGC do an excellent job of that, and so we are now, for our part, are in that policy setting stage. We're looking at turbine emission standards, which for now are facility-based. They're not intended to cover the entire spectrum. We'll look at the mid and upstream later, but right now, because of the short-term drive for LNG and the number of projects, we want to get that done. So we're working, we're making proposals to government, and they'll make decisions on what those standards will be. But we'll look to get those into place, and we're also looking at ambient air quality objectives for the province in advance of the federal government setting theirs, so that there isn't a gap there. We want to close that gap for industry, and so that there's certainty on what the expectations are.
All right. Anything you want to add?
I think we're well positioned. We've been, again, LNG, we've known for a couple of years now that it's something that was coming. The storm is upon us right now. I mean, we're seeing a huge volume of work. But because of the proactive work that's been done over the last year, I think we're quite well positioned to meet the test of cleanest in the world. We have to wait for government to make its final decisions, but I think we're well on our way to having the right tools to make sure that air quality is well managed as that sector takes off.
Well, thank you. I think that you've addressed some of the concerns that the general public might have and the scientific community as well. Let's hope that we can continue the strong partnerships that we have with groups like BC Lung and local governments and the health authorities as we go forward, because it's going to be that collective approach that's going to be essential to making sure that we're keeping air quality as good as it can possibly be in BC. Thank you.